say about this offer, as she absolutely slammed it. This is what Breanna Stewart had to say, man. Time is of the essence. Stewart added that she doesn't know if there's a drop dead date, at which point the league will no longer be able to start the season on time if there's no CBA in place. However, she made it clear that everyone knows they're running out of time and need to get a deal done soon. I think that both sides are very aware that this has gone on way longer than it needed to, Stewart said, but hopefully we can really start.
WNBA President Nneka Ogwumike recently traveled to Nashville specifically to meet with players competing there, making a deliberate effort to connect with those outside the spotlight. Importantly, she didn't only visit athletes in high-paying off-season circuits where top stars can earn six figures in short seasons. She also met with players grinding in lower-paying competitions, where the focus is often conditioning, exposure, and modest earnings rather than major contracts. Those players represent a large but often overlooked portion of the league's membership. They're not signing million-dollar deals overseas. They're not landing massive endorsement packages. For many of them, the WNBA season isn't just part of their career, it is their primary financial foundation. If the season is delayed or cancelled, the consequences for them aren't inconvenient. They're potentially devastating. According to individuals familiar with those conversations, the tone of those meetings reflected exactly what you'd expect: anxiety, frustration, and a growing sense of uncertainty. Some players reportedly worry that union leadership, composed largely of established stars, may not fully grasp how severe a lockout's impact would be for rank-and-file members. The difference in perspective often comes down to financial cushion. For a superstar with sponsorships, business ventures, and international opportunities, missing games is a setback. For a second-year player fighting to stay on a roster, it could derail an entire career trajectory. That contrast doesn't necessarily mean leadership is out of touch. But it does highlight the complexity of representing a membership with vastly different economic realities. Balancing those realities while negotiating with owners adds another layer of difficulty to an already delicate process.
Man, oh man, it appears these WNBA players, they are nuts. They are absolutely insane, and they are continuing to try to play hardball with these WNBA owners in regards to the latest CBA offer made by the owners. Breanna Stewart absolutely slapped around that last offer. Denied. We have to get into it. Welcome to Keep the Vision. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe, share the channel, hit that bell notification to hype the video for me as well. It will be greatly appreciated. Now, we continue to follow what's.
All of this reveals why the negotiations feel so tense and complex. This isn't just a contract dispute about pay scales or benefits. It's a structural debate about how a professional sports league should distribute value between labor and ownership. Both sides believe their approach is logical, sustainable, and fair, yet those approaches point in very different directions. The owner's strategy prioritizes financial stability and controlled growth. They want to ensure the league can continue expanding without committing to obligations that might outpace revenue. The player's strategy prioritizes equity and partnership. They want compensation tied directly to the league's performance so they share fully in the success they help generate. Neither perspective is inherently unreasonable, they're simply rooted in different priorities. What makes the situation especially intense is the ticking clock. With training camp approaching and major off-season events on the horizon, the window for resolution is shrinking. Deadlines, even unspoken ones, tend to sharpen negotiating positions. As time runs shorter, pressure increases on both sides to decide whether to compromise or hold firm. Stewart's comments ultimately highlight the bigger picture: this negotiation isn't nearing its end yet. It's entering its most decisive phase. The concessions already offered show movement, but the central disagreement remains unresolved. Until that core issue, revenue sharing, is addressed in a way both sides can accept, the talks will continue to hover at this tense crossroads. And the outcome won't just determine the next contract. It will shape the financial blueprint of the league's future.
A large contingent of WNBA players is a key point. There's a large contingent of WNBA players playing in Athletes Unlimited, not Unrivaled, not Project B. They're not making a bunch of money right now playing basketball in Athletes Unlimited. This is just to get some conditioning, get some 5-on-5 in, and things of that nature. This is not something where you are going to fatten your pockets. So ultimately, the players in this league, these are those middle of the pack players who seem to be getting left out in thought by the veterans. The Nneka Ogwumikes, the Breanna Stewarts, the Napheesa Colliers, who are all compromised but also can afford a lockout. These players, majority of these players in Athletes Unlimited, cannot afford a...
That moment right there is what it sounds like when negotiations slam straight into resistance. Breanna Stewart, serving as vice president of the WNBA, didn't sugarcoat her reaction to the league's latest collective bargaining proposal. She made it unmistakably clear that despite surface-level adjustments, the offer fails to move the needle in the one area players consider most crucial: revenue sharing. The league's representatives introduced a series of concessions, upgraded housing provisions, improved facilities, and even an increase to the salary cap projected to reach about $5.65 million by 2026. On paper, those additions might appear substantial. But Stewart's response essentially translated to appreciation acknowledged, but the real issue remains unresolved. From her perspective, these extras resemble decorative details rather than structural change. The core demand isn't about perks or incremental salary bumps, it's about a fundamentally different financial framework. Players want a defined share of league revenue, not just adjusted compensation figures decided by ownership. That distinction is what makes this standoff so significant. It's not a minor disagreement over numbers, it's a clash over philosophy, power, and the future structure of professional women's basketball. This isn't posturing for leverage or a tactic meant to strengthen bargaining position. It reflects a genuine divide in how each side believes the sport should operate in the modern era. One vision prioritizes controlled financial growth with predictable expenses. The other emphasizes shared prosperity tied directly to league success. And with training camp scheduled to begin in less than 3 months, time pressure is intensifying. Every passing week narrows the window for compromise, meaning both sides are approaching a critical juncture where decisions can't be postponed much longer.
And a bunch of Australian players who said they could not afford a WNBA lockout, and that's not what they wanted. I knew y'all wasn't on the same page. Here it says, the WNBA's proposal, the league's first response to the players' latest offer, which came more than 6 weeks ago, didn't move much money-wise, Stewart said, but there were some minimum standard requirements that did come into play. That was important, Stewart added, because that means that the league heard us on things that matter to us. And it also means that the league and the owners have been willing to compromise. We are still waiting to hear what you players have compromised on. We haven't heard it yet. Notably, the league's latest proposal offered concessions on player housing and facility standards. First-year players and players on minimum salary will be provided a one-bedroom apartment for the first 3 years of the CBA.
At its core, this standoff reflects a philosophical disagreement about how risk and reward should be distributed. Owners argue they're willing to pay players substantially more and guarantee those increases, but they don't want compensation tied directly to a revenue percentage while the league is still stabilizing financially. From their standpoint, committing to a fixed share could become problematic if revenues fluctuate or losses persist. Players see it differently. Many believe revenue sharing is the fairest system because it aligns their earnings with the league's success. If the business grows, they benefit proportionally. If it struggles, they share that reality too. They often point to the NBA model, where players receive roughly half of basketball-related income, as an example of what they consider equitable. The challenge is that the financial contexts of the two leagues are vastly different. The WNBA has historically operated at a loss for much of its existence, with several teams still relying on ownership support to remain sustainable. Even in seasons with record attention and surging attendance, profitability isn't guaranteed. That makes owners cautious about locking in revenue percentages that could exceed what the league can reliably afford. From their perspective, offering higher guaranteed salaries is a safer route because it provides players with immediate, predictable income without tying compensation to uncertain financial outcomes. But union leadership worries that model keeps control of accounting entirely in ownership's hands. If salaries aren't linked to revenue, players have less transparency and less influence over how success is measured.
The league's response did not address the gap between the sides on revenue sharing, though it did raise the salary cap to $5.65 million in 2026. A source familiar with the negotiation told CBS Sports how that rise would affect specific salaries is unclear. The WNBA's proposal in early December offered a $5 million salary cap and a max salary of about $1.3 million in the first year of the deal. A source close to the situation told CBS Sports that over the course of the proposed deal, the maximum salary will raise to almost $2 million, and that multiple players on each team will be eligible for the max salary. The minimum salary in this deal will start at $230,000. The average will start at $530,000. Now here,
to fully grasp the stakes, it helps to examine what the league has actually placed on the table. The proposal includes guaranteed one-bedroom apartments for rookies and minimum salary players during the first 3 years of the agreement, while developmental players would receive studio apartments. That's a meaningful shift, especially considering the league had previously resisted continuing housing benefits at all. From a logistical and financial standpoint, maintaining league-funded housing is a significant commitment. The financial terms also show measurable increases. The salary cap would rise to approximately $5.65 million by 2026. Maximum salaries would begin around $1.3 million in the first year of the deal and potentially approach $2 million by its conclusion. Teams would also be allowed to offer multiple max contracts, expanding earning potential for top performers. Minimum salaries would start near $230,000, and the average salary would open around $530,000. When compared to the current structure, those figures represent dramatic jumps. Today's maximum salary sits around $240,000, meaning the proposed deal would multiply top earnings several times over. The minimum salary, currently near $60,000, would nearly quadruple. These aren't symbolic increases, they're transformative adjustments that would raise baseline compensation across the league. Yet Stewart's central point remains: none of these numbers resolve the revenue-sharing divide. Players are seeking roughly 30% of league revenue, while owners are holding closer to 15%, though they've shown willingness to boost pay through fixed salaries and benefits instead. That gap, not housing or salary tiers, is the true obstacle.